Hello, my name is Susan, and today I wanted to show you 4 ways that I use these funky water-soluble wax crayons. These are the Cara D'ache Neocolor II water-soluble wax crayons. I fell in love with them straight away because they're such a versatile and vibrant medium that you can use to spice up your sketchbook with just a pop of colour. And this is not something that all crayons do. This is really important for how we use them and also gives us tons of variety in how we can apply the colour onto the sketchbook page. Hi, my name is Susan and I'm an artist, author and host of the annual 30-day sketchbook challenge and the Inspire Sketching membership. I sketch daily all sorts of things from landscapes and plants to those objects that I find around my home. Plus, I also have an obsession with buying new art materials, hence this video on the Cara D'ache Neocolor II wax pastels. Over the past few months, I have been experimenting and playing with how these wax pastels work in my sketchbook, either on their own or by applying water in different ways, such as by using a paintbrush. And don't forget that as a small and really quite portable material, they're great as a painting medium to travel about with you when you've got your sketchbook and you're out and about. So let's continue on and I'll show you some of my sketchbooks and just how these pastels can work wonders in your sketchbook. Now, the first way that you can use these Neocolor wax pastels is simply as a crayon, just drawing with them, writing with them, sketching with them as if they were just a regular drawing implement. Super simple, but let's dive into my sketchbooks and I'll show you what I mean. So here I have some example sketchbooks for where I have used the Neocolor II wax pastels. Both of these 2 examples here are kind of landscape images that I've done. As it suggests, you use these wax pastels exactly like crayons. So let's have a little go with this. Now you can press lightly using the end of the crayon to create light marks, or you can press a little bit harder to create sort of thicker or darker marks. And it's a great idea to just experiment and play with using these crayons or these pastels to see what can happen. You can use the side of the crayon, you can use the top of the crayon. You know, you can really play and experiment. The thing that I like to do here is to really use the marks as almost like, I suppose, paintbrush strokes. So really use the nature of the medium to create effects such as this, where you've got maybe colours layered over each other. So use the marks, get some movement into your drawing. And as you can see in this one, I've got a couple more examples in here as well. So again, these are also ones where I've used these Neocolor II crayons, and here as well. This is more in the style of David Hockney, sort of flat, even layers of colour. So do have a go with this. I think it's incredibly effective, a simple way to use them, but works really effectively as well. So that is the first way you can use these crayons. Now, the second way to use these wax pastels, the Neocolor II water-soluble pastels, is to draw with them on the page and then apply water over your drawing and markings to turn them into a watercolour, so it makes them more paint-like. And it means that you can add just a very different effect to your sketches. So let's dive into my sketchbooks and I'll show you how this works. Now, in this sketchbook page here, I've swatched all of my green crayons and I've scribbled on this left side and then used some water to make it over into watercolour paint. And you can see the variety of tone and mark that you can make. This sketch here, I've scribbled in the sky some blue and then applied some water over the top to slightly blend in. So let me show you how this works. Now, first thing you want to do is make a mark on your page using a particular colour. So if I do a few different little scribbles on the page here, just so that you can see. Then grab just some water and a little paintbrush, and you can start to apply this over the top. And you can apply it just a little bit so that you can still see your drawing marks, or you can apply it quite a lot to really blend that colour, to lift the pigment and make it purely a paint. It's quite nice to keep some of the effect of the drawing, so having both combined, and that's something that I've sort of done here, is I've activated the paint and I've got two marks going on. I've got the drawing mark as well as the paint mark. And the colour does change slightly, the effect is different, but it's a really wonderful way of combining both drawing and painting on the same sketchbook page. So I would highly recommend you have a go at something like this, where you swatch your colours and then have a go at blending in with a little bit of water, turning it into watercolour paint. Now, the third way that you can use these wax pastels is using them as a watercolour paint. So almost forgetting the fact that they are in crayon form, but imagine they are just a paint stick. And this is great for when you're out and about sketching and you want to take some paints with you. These are super convenient. So let's grab a paintbrush and explore how we can do this. And so what I do with this is, rather than using it as a drawing implement first and then applying water, I get water on my brush, I then apply the water onto the wax crayon, and I take paint off the tip of here, and then I just use it as a watercolour paint. So I forget the fact that it's a crayon, I ignore that, and I just use this as a source of gaining watercolour paint. Create a little colour swatch and literally take this out with you, and a paintbrush and a little bit of water, and then you use this as your paint palette when you're painting in a little sketch out and about. So convenient, really easy to use, and a wonderful way of really making the most out of these amazing crayons. Now, the final way that I like to use these wax pastels is to use them as a drawing implement over a sketch or a painting that I've done already. They're a really great way of adding a final detail or touch or hint of colour or highlight to a painting or a piece you've done in another medium. So I'm going to dive into my sketchbooks now and show you how I would use the pastels for this purpose. So let me show you some examples first. Now, in this sketchbook here, I've used a tiny little bit of these wax crayons to add a highlight here. And on this more abstract piece, I did a whole series of these decalcomania pieces. So they're little abstract pieces, little worlds. They were mainly done through acrylic paint, but over the top, I've used the Neocolor pastels here to add a touch of movement and drawing onto what was purely just a painting. So if I'm doing some kind of painting in a sketchbook, something like this really, or even something like this, I've got a background here, I can use the Neocolor here to draw over the top and add in this detail. So for example, this could be a cloud detail. I find using these pastels just gives me this wonderful ability to add movement, and I will twizzle the crayon around to give these lines that have some wonderful movement to them. I do enjoy using paint to sketch, but sometimes you just need a little touch, a highlight, a little bit of drawing in a medium such as this one is another example where I've done a background acrylic painting, and then you can see here the white over the top, the black drawing there. It just adds a little bit of drawing over the top of a essentially painted background or painted first kind of couple of layers. And it's a really, really wonderful way of mixing your media and playing in your sketchbook, which I'm a huge, huge fan of. Now, these 4 ways today that I've shown you how to use these wax crayons are just the tip of the iceberg into this wonderful medium. There's also nothing better than just getting stuck in yourself to see what they can do and experimenting and playing and seeing what works for you. And remember, you only need a small selection of colours to get started. Because as with many coloured materials, you can mix and blend the colours to get the exact hue that you want for your sketch. Now, if you want to see these wax crayons in action, head on over to Sketchbook Stories episode number 12, where I show you how to sketch a landscape just like Cezanne. And I'll be using these Neocolor II wax pastels. Have a huge amount of fun playing with these pastels. Happy sketching, and I'll see you in the next video.